Hello and welcome to another late night talk. My guest this evening is MJ Kuhn. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I am lovely. How are you?
I am good. It's Friday night. It's nearly beer o'clock. So I will be having one soon. Yes, that is the plan.
Excellent. It is significantly further from beer o'clock in Detroit, but it is still Friday and it
Okay,
is the afternoon. So I'm a happy
excellent.
camper.
Yes, Fridays are always good. Always good. So let's go back in the time machine and let's go back to when you were little. What kind of things were you reading, watching, playing that influenced you late in later years?
Yeah. So I mean, I've been just a little nerd my whole life.
Same.
Probably I always say, you're right, like all the cool people. I always say my like gateway to reading fantasy though was the Redwall series.
Okay.
I got really into Redwall when I was in like fourth grade. Um, and I read all of the ones that were available at the time. I think they were still coming out then. Yeah, I went back and I reread a few of them like during the lockdown and stuff, just for like the sake of
Really?
nostalgia.
How
Yeah.
is
And
that?
dude, they like held up because sometimes you go
Okay.
back and you revisit something you loved in childhood and you're like, oh, this was for kids. I get it,
Getting
you know?
Spellgariad, I've gone back and gone,
You're like,
no.
oh,
Feels like middle
I
grade now
used
to
to love
me,
it.
but back then it was, God, this is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think Redwall to me held up like two adult reading eyes as well. I enjoyed
Cool.
it as
Nice.
a new experience too. But yeah, so that was one of the formative ones. Also the Lord of the Rings films came out when I was in elementary school.
God, now I feel
Um,
old. Thank you. Carry on.
oh, I feel young. That's kind
Uh-huh.
of
I'm
rare for me
I'm
these
a lot
days.
older than I look. So yeah, carry on.
Like, oh
I'll get my
yes,
Zimmer frame out, don't
elementary
worry.
school. I remember that. Yeah. So I was really obsessed with the Lord of the Rings films. I still am. And then I didn't read the books until I was quite a bit older.
Mm.
I read the books in late middle school, early high school. I tried to read the Silmarillion for the first time when I was in eighth grade. Um, that didn't, I read it again as an adult and that I actually understood what the heck I was reading. But yeah, so Tolkien, definitely an influence too, and something I was obsessed with as a kid. Gosh, trying to think. There was just so many of those things. Anything with talking animals, really. Warrior Cats, I was into. Mistmantle Chronicles, I was into. All that good stuff.
What about like TV and films and even games? Did any of that stuff kind of feed in? Because sometimes I forget to mention games and comics as well, because people are like, "Oh, I was a big gamer," and that fed in the stories and the characters, and I'm like, "Yeah, so a lot of people just grew up with that as another source of story, really."
Yeah, so I'm a big gamer now. But I'm like a late to gaming gamer. My first ever game console was a GameCube.
Wow.
Um, yeah, exactly. Like I missed a lot. I've gone back and I've got emulators and stuff, and I've played,
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time and a lot of the classics now.
Hmm.
But yeah, my first game that I remember becoming obsessed with was Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker for
Great.
the GameCube. Yeah, and it's so funny because I talk to a lot of people that love Zelda. And it has flaws. A lot of people hate Wind Waker. I still adore it, and I know a lot of it is rose-colored glasses because it was my first love.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I would say that was probably, I mean, in more of like my modern writing, I'd say games come into it a lot more. Like I'm
mm.
obsessed with Mass Effect, and that is nursing my
Yes.
soul deep need to write a space opera someday, right?
Same,
Uh,
same. I
you're
take my
right.
characters all the way through. I've done it like 4 times. I've carried them through. I've tried different things. I'm obsessed with the
Oh yeah.
Liara. I want to marry her as Shepherd.
Oh,
It's
see, I
just
want to
me.
marry Garrus.
Yeah,
Garrus
oh,
is
okay. You can have
my
Garrus. I'll
fictional
have Liara.
husband.
She's my fictional wife. She's
There we
amazing.
go. We all need one.
I think it's the. I don't think it's just the blue. I think it's the voice as well, and the actress is fantastic. And
I really hope it's the voice and the personality for me for Garrus. Otherwise, I have a disturbing attraction to like
to
crickets or something.
weird
Uh,
men, yeah.
like bugs.
Praying mantises. Oh.
Right? It's
Oh.
an interesting kink, but okay. Uh, but yeah, I
But
would say, I mean,
space
for
opera.
gaming, I was
Oh,
late to the game. Yeah. I love Mass Effect though now.
I mean, I've always watched sci-fi and I've read a lot of sci-fi over the years, but I struggle with the harder sci-fi. I love The Expanse, I love Battlestar Galactica and Babylon 5 and Firefly, all these kind of things, and Star Trek and Star Wars. But when you get into the hard sci-fi stuff, I can like I've read 12 pages about how the solar panels work, and God, I'm bored. Now I feel like I'm in a science class, which I loved at school, but for fun, I don't want to read this. I'm like, I want to know about the people. So
Yeah,
space
I
opera.
struggle with some hard sci-fi too. When I do read hard sci-fi, my trick is I have to read it on audiobook.
Uh,
Um, for some reason, it's just like a little easier for me to like process those really intense, because I also didn't like science in school even.
mm.
Like I was a liberal arts bitch from day one. So yeah, the science stuff is always hard for me. But yeah, I do enjoy me some hard sci-fi too.
Have you, a slight aside, but have you played the new Zelda games, the two on the Switch, the two new games?
So I've played Breath of the Wild. I'm actually doing a replay of Breath of the Wild right now. I have not yet played Tears of the Kingdom, but here's why. Here's
Go on.
why. I saw your face. I saw your face. I know it's like a cardinal sin, and it's so funny because I actually am a contributor for a podcast called Another Zelda Podcast. Like I'm literally a
Right.
contributor for a Zelda podcast. I haven't played Tears yet. But I was on deadline for a project when it came out,
Okay,
so I
fair enough.
didn't let myself buy it.
Fair enough.
And then by the time I was done with my draft and submitted it, uh Baldur's Gate 3 had come out. Um, and so I bought that instead. So,
Uh,
and then I put like 130 hours into Baldur's Gate instead of, and I'm gonna loop back to Tears, which is why I'm replaying Breath right now. But
I
I
don't
haven't
know
yet.
look at how many hours I put into Breath of the Wild. I think it would just horrify me. But I had great fun doing it. I got my money's worth. I
You
played
get
it.
all the Koroks?
No, I can't do that. I can't. In the first
It's
game,
too
you
many.
do it and you just get that little turd. And I'm like,
You
really?
get
I worked
nothing
so hard
useful.
for a
Yeah.
turd. I'm not really interested in that.
It's like an Assassin's Creed, right? When you gather all the feathers and you're like, I got all the feathers, I'm gonna get something great. And you get a cloak that just like makes you conspicuous all the time. So the guards just flock to you forever. Like, why would I want
Well,
this?
they'll like give you a bald turkey and you put all the feathers back in. Ta-da! That's what you've got.
Right? I would
Right. I'm
rather
glad I
have
worked
that
so hard for
than the
that.
cloak.
Yeah. Games definitely played an influence all the way back. Yeah, for me as well. But I started on the ZX Spectrum 81, the first ever homes computer that you could buy. Anyway, so
Damn. All right. Yeah, you got way more gaming cred. I
only
feel like
because
I don't
I'm
have any gaming
older.
street cred.
Only because I'm older. I pretty much had every console up to the Cube. Yeah, like
The
like
cube.
Master System, then the Mega Drive, Sega Mega Drive, then the NES, then the SNES, then the Cube, then PlayStation 1. Yeah, it just I lapsed for a while and I've come back to gaming when it got a bit more
There you
exciting.
go.
So,
Yeah, right. I feel like we're in a good age of gaming right now.
oh,
We're
it's
getting some good
amazing.
stuff. Yeah.
So
Well, that's
good.
I've transitioned to a PC recently. Like I was console gamer forever,
Mm.
Xbox girly, which means I missed out on a bunch of stuff. But I bought and I built my first gaming PC last year, in preparation for Baldur's. And I'm like, I'm never going back. Oh my God. And it's so dangerous though too, because I can be like, I guess you can do this on Xbox now too, but it's like I'll just be, chilling on a random weekend night and be like, I feel like playing a different new game. And I just go on Steam and I just buy something and I play it right now. I don't
Hmm.
have to go to the store.
It's
I sound
dangerous.
like an old person right now. I think the kids are very used to that, but I'm like, oh, this is like too much power at my
It
fingertips.
I do Switch and I do PC. Yeah, yeah. I played Horizon, the first Horizon game on PC, Steam sale, loved it, smashed that. I just got Spider-Man on Switch, sorry, on PC, because that was
I
been
heard those are good.
ported over
I have not
from
played them yet.
PlayStation. The first one's come over. It's so good. I had to buy a console controller though for the PC because doing it on keyboard
Oh,
and mouse,
same.
impossible. Absolutely
No,
impossible.
that's
But
I have and I'm like super annoying when I play Baldur's because it's I don't know if you've played it yet, but
oh
it's
yeah.
open world exploration, but it's turn-based combat. So when I do the exploration, I have a little Xbox controller that I bought that I plug in. And then as soon as I go into combat, I like put that down and go back to my keyboard and play on that because it's just the controls are a little more granular. But it works for me, okay?
Hey, if it works and you keep alive, this is it.
Right.
So when did all of this kind of turn into you wanting to write your own stories? Were you writing stories when you were a kid?
I was, but obviously, like, I mean, for most of us, like they were not, I mean, they were basically red wall fan fiction. It was
Mhm.
like I was writing stories on like folded in half pieces of construction paper. And I wanted to be a writer for a very long, like from childhood, but then you get into high school and you start talking to guidance counselors and they start telling you things about how you need to be responsible and pursue a career that will make money and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Which turned out to be great advice. Like I sometimes am sad that I didn't go to school for something in writing, or even like I have a few fantasy author friends who like majored in early world history, right? Which can be helpful in fantasy
Mm-hmm.
writing. I majored in communication and marketing, and I now work in
Familiar
marketing.
story.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right. And like sometimes I'm like sad that I didn't bet on myself earlier, right? I kind of
Mm-hmm.
didn't really write at all outside of papers and stuff for school through
Mm.
all of college. And then about a month into my first full-time corporate girly job, I was like, oh, no,
This is the rest of my
no.
life now, is this?
Oh, yeah, what have I done? I've made a critical error.
Oh shit.
Um, and I started outlining my first novel that I ended up finishing, not Among Thieves, not the first novel that I got published. It's long trunked, this one, but I started writing seriously at that point. Um, and that was probably about 2014. So 10 years. Oh my God, 10 years ago now.
Mm.
That I started like actually writing books, finishing them, editing them, sending them to beta readers, trying to get published at that point in my life.
So
So,
you doing the traditional route and sending it out to literary agents?
oh yeah, yep. Well, it was so funny because I finished writing the first, book and edited it and sent it, had a few friends that are, really into fantasy books read it, give me notes, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, well, now what? I just realized I have no fucking clue how to get a book published. I don't know what to do. Because I didn't know anybody, now I have a ton of friends that are writers and, whatever, editors and all this stuff. And at the time, though, I didn't know anybody else that was doing this.
Yeah.
So I read a bunch of blogs and whatever. I was like, oh, I gotta get an agent. So yeah, I was straight up slush pile query
Mm-hmm.
email life. And I queried one book for about a year,
Yep.
got all form rejections, broke into 100,000 pieces like a mirror shattered on the floor. And
Yeah.
and then wrote three more books without querying any of them because I
Really?
was like, yeah, because I would write it, I would edit it, I would get the beta readers, blah blah blah, and I'd be like, not good enough. And
Oh wow. That's harsh on yourself.
I know. And then I joined Twitter literally to do the pitch contests on Twitter.
Oh
That
wow.
is why
Okay.
I joined Twitter. Which is great because that's actually I got my first agent in PitMed. Um,
Ah.
so eh, it worked out. But yeah, that's my little path. And then super fun, my agent left the business in
Oh.
2022. Yeah, 2022. Shout out Arrow. Thanks for abandoning me. No, I'm just kidding. I love them. They're great.
Okay.
But they left the industry and I had to do it all over again. So, but now I have another agent and she's fantastic. So it
Okay.
worked out again.
Jesus. But so was that book that you pitched in Pitmad, was that Among Thieves?
No,
Oh,
it
okay.
wasn't
Jesus.
Among
So a
Thieves.
different book got you a literary agent though. So that's something, I guess.
Yeah. So that's yeah, my path to publication was long and took it was a lot of swings and misses.
Hmm.
It's all right. But yeah, actually, the book that I signed with my first agent on was a young adult dystopian.
Okay.
Yeah, not at all what I write now. But I feel like it's kind of like, oh, every actor's been in a horror movie. I feel like every author in my age group wrote a young adult dystopian at some point or thought about it at least. All right. We
Right.
grew up on the Hunger Games. We came up on, whatever else. But yeah, we subbed that to publishers for about a year and it died on sub.
Mm,
And now I'm glad that it did because I think the pivot to the adult market is just a better fit for me.
yeah.
But yeah, then we subbed Among Thieves, and that one is my debut novel.
I guess one thing a lot of people, when I talk to them, writers who are just starting to think about it or just starting to send off to agents and stuff, they don't realize that it is a massive, massive hurdle and a great achievement to get an agent and get their interest and they believe in that book, but that does not guarantee you'll then get a publishing deal or even on your first or second or third book. So Andrea Stewart has the same literary agent as me, and she signed around the same time as me, but her debut didn't come out until only a few years ago. So she had like 3 or 4 books, I think it was, on sub with my agent going out to the market like you. And for whatever reason, it didn't work, whether it was timing, preference, luck, what was in the zeitgeist, too much of the same thing, saturation in the market. You just never know, and it didn't work. So, but getting an agent is still massive because it shows you've got
Yeah.
something there that they
Well,
go,
and it feels better once you have the agent too. Like that's the one thing that, I mean, yes, it was still a very long and frustrating path to publication from the time, I think it was I signed with my first agent in 2018 and I
yeah,
debuted in 2021.
yeah.
So it was 3 years, 3.5 years in that time frame, which was hard and stressful, but it's like hard and stressful with someone at your back. You know what I mean?
Yes,
It's like
you've
you
got a
feel like
champion who believes in you.
yeah, you have a person and it's, which every agent is different. Both of my agents have been fantastically editorial and fantastically um I don't know, tolerant of my emotional bullshit. Like they're right? Like I can reach out to like I can reach out to Laura, my current agent now, or I could have reached out to Arrow and did many times when they were my agent and be like, "Oh my God, I'm so stressed out. I'm dying." And they would be like, "Relax, you're okay." Instead of just like, they could just ignore me, I guess. So that's nice to have that sounding board too. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got that with mine. Like if I say to her, I'm thinking of writing this or I'm working on that, she'll be like, what? So how far have you gone and what we do? And then we talk about it. It's like why it's right for the market or not right for the market before I'm too far in. So yeah, every agent is different.
Exactly.
Every agent is really different. She's usually my first reader on a new project. She'll
Oh
read it
wow.
and
So
give me
first
feedback.
beta, that's awesome.
Yeah. Like once if I've signed a trilogy, she won't then read the second and the third book. It'll go to my editor first. But on a brand new project, she's typically my beta reader. Be like, let's have a look at this or work on that. Or so. Yeah, it's you work in the dark for so long without really knowing. You don't have any kind of idea of why it didn't work, and then to suddenly get someone who is in the business, who understands the market, who knows about trends, and can say, this is the reason it's working, this is what's not working, this is why I like it. It's an enormous boost compared to just
For
form
sure, to
rejection.
just being alone. Yeah, well, and that's the thing too, when it's form rejections and when you don't have a foot in the door in the industry yet, I feel like you don't, or at least I didn't know or fully understand just how big a piece luck plays in it, right? Or
Hmm.
timing or whatever. Because it's not all luck, right? Like
No.
you have to have a product that's saleable and blah 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 blah. But like you could have a great book, a fantastic book. I've friends who are on sub with a book that I've read that I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible. But you have to catch the right editor on the right day when they have the right list and
Hmm.
they're had the right number of cups of coffee or whatever the case is. Like these are humans that you're submitting it to, and humans have moods and thoughts, and there's trends that you don't have access to because they're talking about things in boardrooms that you're not in and whatever. And once you have the agent, or at least for me, once I had my first agent, it was like, oh, you really start to see how much bigger the picture is and how much of it is like, oh, it's just business. Like it's not personal. It doesn't mean you suck as a writer.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean your book sucks. It just is capitalism, baby.
it's such a weird thing. I've done some talks to universities in the UK for creative writing students, and like two of the things they always kind of struggle is that the fact that luck plays a factor, but also personal preference for an agent. Like someone could say, it's not for me, and they can't champion it, they can't get behind it because they don't like it for whatever reason. And then the next person takes it on and they love it and they champion it. It does really, really well. And the other side is the commercial aspect. They kind of struggle. Like you're writing because you want to be read. Everyone said, and if you can write enough that you make enough money that you can do it full time, great. When people say, "Oh, I'm writing it just because I want to write," I'm like, I call bullshit, because you just put your book out for free and you wouldn't bother to get an agent or a publisher. You just put your work out there. So I call bullshit. And that's when I said to them, it has to be commercial. They're like, "What do you mean?" I said, "You can write the weirdest off the wall, weird shit, and you might get 4 readers. But if you write something that's a little bit down the middle, it doesn't have to be boring, doesn't have to be samey, doesn't have to be safe. But if there's a built-in audience, you're going to get more readers and you're going to have more of a commercial chance, because there's all the business side that they don't seem to always think about, and it's all focused on the creative, which is makes sense up to a point. But nowadays, more than ever, I'd say, as authors, we have to be business people as well as just creative. We can't just be one.
Yeah, I always try to think of it as like almost having like two sides of the job. And I try not to mix them, right? So like if I'm in a period where I'm drafting, I'm not going to be also now going and managing my social accounts in that same little time period,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm going to do that in a different time chunk because that's like a different part of my brain that's activating. Oh, I don't know, that
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
dumb.
no, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you gotta have the crazy right brain go bananas and write crazy shit and whatever, just let your creativity vomit onto the paper. But then you got to come back and reel it in and go, okay, well, first draft can be for me, but subsequent drafts got to be for a bigger audience if I'm gonna bother to publish it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just such a weird mix of both, of having a day job that uses different muscles in some ways, because if it uses exactly the same thing. So I am like you, and my dad was like, "Oh, I want to be a writer," when I was like a little kid, and he's like, "That's nice, but you kind of need a real job to begin with, a day job." And I'm like, "Oh,
How
okay
are you
then."
gonna buy food?
So I, like you, I did business, I did marketing, I did marketing for 25 years. And yeah, I wrote evenings and weekends for the longest time outside of that until I got somewhere. Um, just because I wanted to keep doing it. But I'm glad, like you, I'm also glad I've got the business side, because I ask my publisher and my agent and my editor questions that other people probably won't, because they don't have that business background. And they're like, "Oh, you thought about that?" I'm like, "Uh-huh," because I've been doing business just as long as you, but a different kind of
Yeah.
business, marketing. So I think it's
Right. But
useful
honestly,
skills to
like
have.
it all connects. And that's honestly, I'll tell you again, I sometimes wish that I'd studied blah, blah, blah. But
Mm,
working in marketing has helped me, because some skills, like I don't do book marketing for my day job. I work in business to business, like tech
same.
and SaaS
B2B
solutions
tech.
marketing, like
Yeah.
not not at all the same. But there's some principles that carry over. And I've been in more than one conversation with editors, publicists at publishing houses, things like that, where when they find out my day job is in marketing, they get stoked, right? Like they get excited because like probably because it's like, oh, well, you can help, push the book too, which I can and I will.
Uh-huh.
But I do think, it's helpful to have those muscles too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you need both sides of your brain, I think, the both kind of creative and the business side these days. So tell me about your debut. Tell me about Among Thieves. Where did the idea for this come from originally? What kind of a story did you want to write with it?
Yeah, so it's for anyone not familiar with Among Thieves, which I mean probably a lot of people. It's a fantasy heist story. So it's the elevator pitch is six thieves team up to steal a magical artifact from the most powerful man in the world, and every member of our heist team is secretly planning to fuck over the rest of the crew. So it's really like six little heist stories all tangled up in one. Which was super fun, super twisty. It was a really good time to write. The idea, so it came from a few places. First of all, very direct inspiration for the story is The Lies of Locke Lamora, Gentleman Bastard series, Scott
Yes.
Lynch. Uh-huh.
So good.
Yeah. obsessed with that when I was in high school. I mean, and still, but like that's why I first read Lies of Locke Lamora when I was in ninth grade, and like forever obsessed. Um, and so, so that was one.
Mm.
Also to the point, and I always make sure I say this because shockingly few people have picked up on it. Maybe more have. I don't know. I just haven't mentioned it to me. But the main story world in my world is called Tamor, which is like a direct nod to Kamor.
More, yeah.
Yeah, like it was like I was like I gotta put something in there,
Someone will
that's
get it,
like,
surely, surely.
and I heard like one person say that to me like a year after it came out, and I was like, yes, you got it.
Hmm.
Again, probably more people have seen it and just didn't say anything. Because it's like pretty blatant. But yeah, and then I also like to say that I drafted the first draft of Among Thieves when Game of Thrones was good. The TV show.
Yeah, fair. Mm.
So like the idea of betrayal storylines and like having this kind of multi point of view where we don't know who we want to root for, where everyone's kind of a bad guy, that was very much steeped in both my mind and like kind of the cultural zeitgeist of the moment. Because
Mm.
this was like we're talking, I think I drafted it when like season 4, season 5 Game of Thrones were coming out, like when it was like probably at its peak.
Yeah.
So that was an influence too. And then also just, I love heist stories. I love heists. I love Ocean's 11. I love
Hmm.
The Italian Job, all that good stuff. Six of Crows, which I mean, I ended up reading later, but I mean, I love Six of Crows as well. Um,
I
but
think I've
yeah,
got that to
I,
read. Yeah, it's on my shelf there to read.
Six of Crows. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I've got it.
good.
I picked it up
It's
and I'm like,
good.
Okay, I've got that to read.
I mean, it's YA, but it's like, it feels like cusp, like, you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
young adult, but it could go either way, I feel like. um but yeah, I always just kind of wondered too, like, okay, we have a heist team, we have a bunch of miscreants and bad guys, and like in a lot of the heist stories you see, they just stay on the same like nobody tries to fuck each other over.
Mm.
Nobody, like nobody. And then of course, except for I guess spoilers for the first 10 minutes of The Italian Job,
Yeah,
the one guy at the beginning of The Italian Job.
yeah.
And so that was kind of what I was like, well, what if all of them were that one asshole in the beginning of The Italian Job? What if everybody did that? And everybody has their own little designs on what um, what they're gonna do with the loot. So that was kind of the idea and where that came from. And it was really fun. And
You must have planned this book then. If everybody's trying to fuck over each other and that many people, you can't be like, I'll just make it up as I go along. I'm thinking, with that kind of book, there's no way you can do that and do it satisfyingly.
yeah, I plotted this book in Microsoft Excel.
You
Yep.
gotta with that kind of a job.
Yeah, it works out really well. And I use Excel to plot a lot of my stuff now just because I really liked how it worked out, because I just had like one column for every like plot and subplot and like character
Yeah.
plan, and then one row for every scene.
Hmm.
And then you fill in the little boxes. And then it was like just really easy to see, how it all fit together, and you can
Yeah.
zoom out and you can see like where the gaps are, right? You can be like,
Hmm.
"Ooh, I haven't touched on this character arc in 15 scenes. Woo, probably should throw something in there." Yeah, it's okay. When I talk about outlining in Excel, a lot of people get nauseous. So if you feel nauseous, it's okay.
Not at all. No, it's whatever works for you. Like some writers I know, they don't. They just start with the idea and they have the thing in the front of their mind of where they're going. I plan all of mine to a reasonable degree, but I leave gaps so I can have creative jumps. I know Peter Brett writes like a bullet of every single thing in every single chapter, and he doesn't start writing till he's done that for the entire book, and then he starts writing it. I'm like, oh God, but that works for him, it doesn't work for me. So I'm like, Excel works for you, great. Some people are
Yeah,
like, oh,
well,
Scrivener
that's,
and
oh
whiteboard
gosh,
or
I
moving
tried
things around, and
Scrivener.
I'm like, okay, I'll just stick with
What?
Word. Word is fine for me, and that's all I need. Off I go, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and so normally when I'm writing, I do like the project I'm outlining right now. I have like one sentence for each scene that I want
Hmm.
to happen. And once I have that, then I'll start drafting.
Yeah.
But frequently I'll like partway through a draft, because I hear a lot from, I think like Ed McDonald. I was talking to him on a podcast a while ago, and he was like, like that sounds awful, because he's like a little more on the pantsing side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well,
Yeah.
it's not, it's, you're not hemmed in by the outline, right? Like the outline is your, your guiding path. But there are so many times where I get to a scene that I thought was gonna slap. Like I thought this scene was gonna be just like chef's kiss, the best. And you get to it in actual practice in the draft, and you're like, fuck, this does not work. Like this is not
Mm-hmm.
giving. This isn't working. And so in that case, you do an audible on the fly, and
Yep.
you change it up. So I think there's room for all of the above. But yeah, pantsing is not for me. I've tried it 4 different times and ended up
Right.
with like 40 to 60,000 completely unusable words every time because it goes nowhere. Like I
Ah,
don't, people who pants are just wizards. I don't understand how they do it, but Godspeed to you.
I did try a whole novel once, pantsing it. I did finish the novel as well. And it was like it's sci-fi as well. It was like Mars colony and design of babies and cloning and all sorts of weird stuff. And I got the end of it and thought, I've got a book, it's brilliant. And I read it, completely unsalvageable. Couldn't use, didn't submit, didn't send it out. Just like I was like, nope, that's straight in the trunk. That is just not my way.
Yeah.
No
It's
way.
just not my way either. And I tried it. The most recent time I tried it was actually Nano in November, just this past year. And I had reached out to my friend Hannah Long, HM Long, author
Hmm.
of the Hall of Smoke series, Darkwater
Love
Daughter,
that.
all
I
those.
read the
She's,
first book, read it,
oh
got
my
two and
God,
three to read. So good.
fantastic. She's great. And she's just a really lovely human. She's a pantser. She diehard pantser. That's
Oof.
her process. And so I like came to her for help when I was gonna try it again. And I was like, okay, so what do you have when you start? Like, so I'm trying to like figure out how to start this project, and I don't know if I'm ready to start drafting it, blah, 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 blah. Like, what do I need? A magic system and all this stuff. And she's like, usually before I start drafting, I have like a character and an image.
That's it?
And I was like,
What?
what? How do you do that? But again, like look at her work. It's fantastic. Clearly that process works for her. But I will tell you, I tried it and it did not work for me.
I talked to RJ Barker, who's a friend, and there again, he just has like bits, and then he goes, and I'm like, what? How? How?
Yeah.
I don't
I
get
think my
it. But
brain just like short circuits with anxiety if I don't, because like that's my other thing too, is like, so my writing tip, which again, whatever, like everybody, as we're talking about, does everything totally differently.
Mm.
But like when I'm drafting, what I have to do is I never end a day at the end of a scene or a chapter.
Oh,
So if I
okay.
finish a chapter the next and I'm done writing for the day, no, I'm not. I got to start the next chapter or scene and do like I can write 2 lines, 1 line,
Hmm.
whatever. But I need to have it started so the ball is rolling a little bit when I sit down
Right.
tomorrow.
Yep.
And then before I get up for the day, I write like 3 or 4 bullet points of just like what I'm planning to write the next day. Like
Okay.
this person talks to so and so and they're pissed. Like it can be stupid, like just blah 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 blah. But it's
Mm.
just like then when you sit down, it's not as like the blinking cursor and the blank page and
Hmm.
blah, like none of that scares is as scary because it's like I feel like I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
But for a writer like Hannah, like our Panther friends, that would be so constricting and they would hate that, right? Like it would they would feel hemmed in by that. So yeah, there's no right way.
So when you were writing this first book, did you write anything in the moment that was totally weird and you were like, I don't know what that is, but I'll put it in, see where it goes, that stayed in the book? Because I've done that and some things have stayed and some things, well, my editor's come to it and gone, this is really interesting. Oh, great. But it's crap and it doesn't mix with anything else you've done. Oh, it doesn't work. Take it out. Okay. So I've
Like,
had
okay, I
both.
tried something. Yeah. You know what, for the first book, no. For Among Thieves, I mean, God, the first intricate outline that I had to redo it and redo it and rewrite it and reverse outline and then redraft and blah 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 blah. I had to probably rewrite the heist sequence, right? Like the meat
Yeah.
of, the middle act from the ground up. I probably rewrote it 6 or 7 times. Yeah, just like, because it wasn't feeling anxious enough, or it wasn't
Right.
feeling realistic enough, or it wasn't feeling hard enough, or now it was feeling too hard, or whatever.
Mm.
Um, but the sequel, I will say there is a character that I wrote in that was supposed to be just kind of like a little bit character that shows up for like a second.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, I like this bitch. And so she ended up becoming one of the main, not the main characters. She doesn't get a POV, but she ended up like becoming a very large part of the story. I like actually, which anyone that's read Thick as Thieves, Jocelyn. Jocelyn was not really supposed to be in the book. I mean, she was, but like for a second. And then I was like, ooh, but what if she's actually this? And then I can do this and that and the other thing, and whatever. So yeah, that was a moment that surprised me while I was drafting that lasted and made it into the story.
It's fun with those things happen. I had something in my second book, a character that I loved, and she does some stuff in the book, and then she's done, and afterwards I'm like, I'm not done with her. So I brought her back
Yeah.
in the next trilogy. I was like, I think this character more, so I'll do more with her. So I did more with her. But yeah, I like those surprises. Sometimes they go somewhere and become some of the best things. Sometimes they just don't work out and they have to get kind of edited out.
Yeah, there's always another draft. That's why I'm always like, it's a beautiful thing about being a writer is it doesn't really matter how bad I fuck up in a single draft because I can fix it in post. Like, like imagine being like a stage performer, like a Broadway actor. Oh, that would be so much scarier because you can't just fix it later.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
ooh, I
it's
wouldn't
like
like that.
you get a do-over the next day, but it's a brand new audience. And if you fucked up on one
Yeah.
night and you don't do it, it's like, okay,
Uh-huh.
I've got tomorrow, but we don't,
Exactly. Or I could
yeah.
fuck up for like 4 days in a row. Nobody even has to know.
It gets fixed in edits, yeah, as much as you can, as many edits as you need, I guess.
Yeah.
So obviously, unknowing to you, your book came out around the time of this global pandemic. Therein, not a good
Yeah.
not a good day, really.
No,
So you
no,
weren't
it was
able to
supposed
go
to
out and
come
do
out.
events and stuff then, like in person. You couldn't go out and
No.
do
Yeah. Well, it was originally slated to publish in fall of 2020,
ah.
initially, and it
Hmm.
got pushed by a year. And I was like, oh no. Uh, it actually ended up getting pushed before, like it got pushed in late 2019. They pushed it another year. And at the time I actually was like, oh no, I was devastated. I was like, I have to wait another year. And then March 2020 came and I was like, oh,
All right. Yeah,
okay.
sure, good, good.
I'll wait another year. Yeah, but still by fall of 2021, there was still, stuff wasn't really open. I wasn't able to do a bookstore launch, or anything like that. I did a lot of virtual events. I was fortunate in that at that time doing like outdoor events was like okay. And like enough people were whatever and masking and all this stuff. So
Mm,
I got some one of my lovely friends made me some Among Thieves branded face masks.
nice.
And I was able to do like a signing at a table outside of a bookstore. And then my parents threw me a book signing event in their backyard. But which was actually really fun. Like a lot of people ended up coming, just like, old friends and, teachers from high school and whatever, like
Oh
just people
wow.
from like my old community, because my parents still live in the house I grew up in. Um, and we had a cake and we had mimosas and you know what I mean? It was just a really fun time. So that was nice and took some of the whatever sting out of not being able to do kind of the events. But at least I will say I'm grateful because I know a lot of people that actually debuted in 2020 couldn't
Yes.
even the bookstores were closed, not even just for events, but like period. So like on my debut day, I could go to a Barnes and Noble to my local store and I could see the book on the shelf at least, which was a cool experience. That I was grateful that I was able to do that at least. So that was good.
Did you get a thrill of just like seeing it on the shelf alongside some of these authors that you've been reading and admiring for years? I still get it now. I still get that kind of
Same. Yeah. Well, especially with my last name, Kuhn. Oh my God, I'm always between Jay Kristoff and R.F. Kuang. Like, oh yeah, just like two of the biggest names in the genre. It's fine. So every time I see my book on a shelf, I'm always like, oh,
yeah. There's
look at
like
these auspicious friends I'm near.
I've got Ben Aronovich, Joe Abercrombie, a couple of others, and then me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
just hanging out, just hanging
Right? Like, oh,
out.
there's my peers. It's fine.
The only thing that I've come close to in real life was when I did a French book festival, and I was wedged between Christopher Priest on one side and Steven Erickson on the other side for a signing, and there's me sat in
Oh
the
my
middle
God.
for like 3 days. I'm like,
You're like, did you
so
get to, well, I would say, well, that's, so I did a, an event in Portland, Oregon last year. And I was next to Travis Baldry for the
hmm
signing, which I mean, he's like the sweetest person. Like he's just like such a kind soul. Of all the people to make successful, we did a good job. Society, make him more successful forever. He's great. His signing line was like looped around and around, and like mine was like just had like four people or whatever. His
yeah.
line is like around the booth, and I was like, yes, that's okay.
Yeah, I thought it would just be a massive queue for the pair of them, but some, to be fair, some French fans did come and ask for my book signing, so I felt very vindicated about that. That was really nice.
Oh yeah.
Come and get some, but that, yeah. So basically, I got just sat beside those two for 3 days and got to know the pair of them. So that was
Yeah.
worth it anyway. Just,
And
nice.
I bet they were nice and delightful. That's the thing. Every time I
Yeah.
meet like a huge name author and I'm scared and nervous to meet them, and then they're just like the coolest human. I'm like, we're all just big nerds. Oh, I love that.
But the biggest one who's the favorite I've met is probably Robin Hobb. She's just the nicest lady.
Oh my gosh,
She's
I have
just,
not met her, but everyone says that. You're probably like the third person who's met Robin Hobb that I've
mhm.
heard say, "Oh my God, Robin Hobb's the best."
Yeah, yeah. She's just so nice. Yeah. Really enjoyed meeting her and talking to her. She's just wonderful. So the first book comes out, and obviously it wasn't perfect with the timing and stuff. Um, Tell me about the second book. How did this come about? Was it a two-book deal originally, or was it just a one-book deal?
No, so I had written it as a duology.
Okay.
I had written book two before book one ever came out, but it was sold as a one book deal.
Ah,
Um, and my publisher billed it as a standalone, which it
okay.
ends on a cliffhanger. So
Hmm.
so like literally, and I was sitting there while book one had come out, but was trying to sell book two, but my publisher was like, "Oh, I want to see how the sales go on book one, blah blah blah. You know the game." And I'm sitting there during this like weird little middle time, and I'm seeing reviews rolling in that are like, "How is this a standalone? This doesn't end like da 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 da," and the 2 stars, whatever. And I'm like, but it's already written. I haven't done. I'm ready for you. So yeah, I didn't actually end up getting the deal for Thick as Thieves until 2022. It was like probably 6 months after the first book came out.
Right.
Um, yeah, so it was a stressful little time there.
hmm
But it worked out and it was all good. And then the sequel came out in 2023.
hmm
Um, and that one was I got to do an event with my local indie bookstore that I love and do all the things that time, which was it was kind of like a nice little, I don't know, second debut almost, right? Where I got to actually
Yeah,
do a lot of
different feel
this
to the
stuff.
world by that point. The
Yeah,
world's moved on
yeah,
a
and
bit.
like do a little travel, right? Like I did an event in Seattle and I went to Portland and I did an event with Greta Kelly in Wisconsin. You know what I mean? It was like I got to
Mm.
like send myself on a little book tour. Which ended up being really fun. So, I got to kind of make up for the being stuck at home during my actual debut.
Yeah, yeah. But of course, by then, not only the world has moved on, but I'm sure by then you'd met a lot of authors within the same space and the community, and you've got people who are doing the same thing as you, and probably gone through the same experiences, debuted or in 2020 or 2021, difficult time, but you weren't alone in the boat anymore.
No, well, that's honestly the one piece of advice that I give like folks that are querying or folks that just got signed, kind of at the beginning of that like trad pub journey,
Yeah.
is to like find your cohort. And by cohort, like yes, I mean just like other authors in the space, but
Mhm.
like you wouldn't be in my cohort because you already had several books out by the time I
Yeah.
signed, right?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
my cohort is like people going through the same shit as me for the first time with me. So actually, myself, Genevieve Gornichek, the author
hmm
of The Witch's Heart,
Actually, yeah.
and then Hannah Long.
hmm
all three of us started a 2021 debut support group online. And I mean, we had, it was a lot of sci-fi fantasy, but we had romance authors, we had thriller authors. I mean, it was just like pretty much anyone who is going through the trad pub side of this debut journey
Mm.
during 2021. And it was so delightful having that group of people that we could have a space that was a safe place to like complain about things that were going wrong without having to do it on the main, right, online,
Yeah, put your phone
or like
away. Right,
ask,
let's talk.
yeah, or like ask questions, right? And say like, hey, this is what I'm going through. Is this normal? Or like, hey, can you help me with this? Hey, do you know anyone in this area? Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I would always just say like find people that are kind of in the same space, same time, of their publishing lives as you.
Yeah, yeah.
And try to find that community, because I think I would have gone literally insane without that lovely little group of wonderful people. So
Yes, you absolutely need the people who get it, who are in the same space. You can have those conversations. And the other thing I always say to people is if you can go in person to conventions and talk to other authors. Panels are great. I love panels. I love doing them. I like listening to them. The best thing about conventions is after the panels, where you sit around,
100%.
have a chat with a bunch of authors, talk about stuff, and just shoot the shit about characters, world building, publishing, editing, writing, whatever it might be. And it really invigorates me and energizes me. I find just lifts me up, I think.
No, absolutely same. That's another thing that was hard about debuting during the pandemic is I didn't go to any cons. There
Yeah.
weren't any cons that were happening, or I did TBR con and stuff, but they were all virtual, right?
Yeah, me too.
Um,
Yeah.
so the first convention I did, I got invited to New York Comic Con in 2022. And it was great. It was fantastic. I did like, went to drinks with like a bunch of authors and, editors and like, oh my God, it was like, it really felt like, uh, I don't know, like a professional community when before
Mhm.
it had really very much felt like just like isolated sitting alone with my laptop. So yeah, totally agree with you. If you have the time, resources, ability to get to a convention.
It's just
Absolutely.
it's just so different. It's just a different
Hmm.
experience of going in person. Like,
It's a fun energy. Yeah.
yeah, you're being around a bunch of people who get it. Like, I can talk to my Muggle friends who aren't writers about a bunch of stuff, and they're patient and they're kind and they're understanding up to a point. And then they're just like, oh God, you still going on about that. Whereas with writers, they get it. They're just like, I understand why this is so important to you.
Yeah, well, or like if you're talking to like your friend that isn't in the book world and you're like trying to tell them a story about something that has like annoyed you or whatever about publishing,
Yeah.
and they start getting appalled like before you even get to the part that annoyed you, right? Like you're
Yeah.
still describing like background
They're like,
information and they're like, wait, what? It takes a year for a book to come out? And you're like, oh, honey,
that's
we
that's not the story. Oh, it's
that's
not.
par for the course. I haven't even gotten to the part yet. So yeah, it's nice to be around folks that they just have the same world experiences and different ones too, right? You get different perspectives on the same variations on a theme, if you will, right? Of the trad pub journey or just publishing journey in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what's next now that that second book is out and it's out in the world? What are you working on now?
So I I have 5 active projects right now.
Wow. Okay.
Because I know. Well, here's the thing. It's a blessing and a curse. I am not under contract for anything right now,
Hmm.
which is terrifying because it means I may never publish another book, right? I mean, like, let's be real, I'm stubborn enough. I will eventually, but it's scary. Um, but it's so freeing because I'm
Hmm.
not on a deadline right now. I'm not, whatever. So, I have a cyberpunk project that is with my agent right now. I have a very high fantasy traditional sword and sorcery type project that is my love letter to Tolkien. That
Ah,
is,
right.
yes, that is in the works right now. I have another kind of like heisty, low stakes kind of project that I'm
Hmm.
working on.
Hmm.
And then there's another fantasy project. And then I just drafted a weird, like, horror book that I
Okay.
literally got the idea for. I know, I know. See, that's what I'm saying. Is it's like it's scary not being under contract for anything, but it's like I can just do whatever the fuck I feel like writing right now, which is
Basically, yeah.
kind of a fun place to be in and a space that, while I'm sometimes quote unquote jealous, right? Like envious, right, of my friends that are under contract for, whatever, until 2029, they have deals lined up or whatever. Um, like, I mean, I do. I have friends, I know people that are in that situation, and that's
Mm,
great for stability, but also they're very
yes.
hemmed in. They can only work on what they can work on.
Yes.
Um, so, grass is always greener, right? But yeah, the weird little horror project, I got the idea for it in middle December, and I finished the first draft like the first week of February. It's the
Oh
fastest I've ever
wow, that's
drafted
quick. It's
anything.
really
Yeah.
quick.
I just like it poured. I mean, it might be shit. Let's be real. Who knows? I haven't had it. I haven't had it beta read or anything yet. It might suck, but it was fun, and I'm having a really good time just kind of exploring different facets of the genre that I've never written before. So I have no idea in terms of publication what's coming next for me, but probably one of those.
I think pushing yourself every time is good. Trying different things every time. I mean, if it's boring to write, it's gonna be boring to read. If it's just the same old, same old. So I
Yeah.
think doing something different is healthy. I think, pushing the boundaries of what's comfortable is good. Um, yeah, I never want to do the same thing twice, and so I haven't so far, and I don't think I will in the future. But
Yeah, right. It's fun to
yeah,
be able to play in the little sandbox of our books.
yeah, and fantasy's the biggest cheat code. You can write any kind of story that you want, basically, as long as there's certain things in it. It's still fantasy, and you can slip it under
Yeah.
the
Well,
radar, and
that's
people are like, "Oh, okay."
for so SFF Addicts, which, oh my gosh, I haven't even plugged that yet. Sorry,
Mhm.
Adrian.
He was on the
So
other day. It's
I'm
fine. He's been on the show already, so it's
oh,
fine.
perfect. So they already know. So on SFF Addicts, we talked to Robert Jackson Bennett,
Hmm.
and he was talking about how none of his books are fantasy. They are, but they're like, yeah, but he's like, well, like the Foundry Side, books are really just cyberpunk dressed up as fantasy. And then his new book is The Tainted Cup.
Tainted Cup. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So good. Oh my gosh. It's like this is really just a detective story dressed up as fantasy, right? Which again, he's being hyperbolic because they are fantasy, but it's
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
it's just to the point what you were saying, where it's like you can do so much with the genre. There's so many different genre mashups that you can kind of play with. Yeah, it's a good
I
time.
did that, and people didn't realize my first trilogy. Everyone's completely different, but it's they're all labeled as fantasy. And I'm like, yeah, sure they are.
Right? Wink. Well, that's so you mentioned The Expanse earlier. I'm reading The
Hmm?
Expanse for the first time right now. I actually just started book
Ah,
9.
oh, you're ahead of me
Um,
then. So I've read
oh,
7. They're up there. I've got. So I read 6, and I enjoyed the first 5. Brilliant. 6, I struggled with. I know it's the last one of that sort of period, and I struggled with it. Maybe because I'd watched the TV series, and then I was
oh
I
yeah, I
was
still haven't watched the show at all, but
okay, and then I'm like, okay, and then I was like, oh, okay. Like I read 7, absolutely loved it, fantastic. Jumped forward like 20 years or whatever it is, brilliant. So I've
yeah.
got 8 and 9 to read, and then I've got the 10th, which is the collection of all the short stories and novellas and stuff. So I've got that to read. But once you've finished it, go back and watch it. It's
That's
so
what my
good.
plan is. I've heard the show is really good, and I didn't want to watch it for spoilers. I was told once I finished book 5, I could
Yes,
go watch the show.
yes.
But at that point, I was like, I'm just because I started reading Leviathan Wakes in late January, early February. Like I've just been burning through. Like I'm on a binge read, all right, and they're
Hmm.
good. I like them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But Adrian and I'm again co-host SFF Addicts. Now
Hmm.
I feel like I got to plug it a little bit because I kept
Sure,
forgetting.
sure, sure.
Um, but we were talking about it the other day, and he was telling me that every book of The Expanse is sci-fi dressed up as, right? So like
Hmm.
book 1, Leviathan Wakes, is basically like noir detective story dressed up as
It's a missing
sci-fi space
girl that they're
opera.
looking for, a missing
Yeah.
girl.
Book 2 is kind of like horror, scary, mashup creature, dressed up as, and it's like so yeah, it's fun. I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of folks do that. and we like to your point with your series where it's like it's all kind of like different
Hmm.
genres within the genre.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just more fun to play in this space. I like it.
Once you've start watching the show as well, you'll only be able to hear Christian Avasarala's voice in your head with the actress's voice. The others kind of come and go. Amos, I can only hear that actor now. But Christian Avasarala, once you hear her speak, and once you start swearing on the TV show, they've kind of dialed up her swearing. It's amazing.
Oh
She's
my
so good.
God. I
But
love
that
they
that one
dialed it
actress,
up even.
oh
Wow.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. She says
Because
a bunch of
she
words.
ain't shy in the books either.
Oh no, they really just said to her, go for it, and she did. But yeah, you'll
She's one of
just
my
hear her
favorite
voice.
characters too. She's one of
Me
my
too.
favorite.
Her and
Her and
Amos.
Amos are probably oh, I feel
Hmm.
like that's like maybe the most common favorites because you're not the first person that has agreed with me on those
But
two, but they're
also
so great.
the detective as well. If I'm from
Oh yeah. First book one, my favorite because it's only the two POVs in book one, and
Mhm.
Miller was absolutely my favorite POV in book one.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, nothing against Holden. He's Holden.
Holden's okay, but he's very
Holden.
Holden.
He does his he's Holden. Yeah, like he's fine. He's
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 cleaner, and I like my
inoffensive.
characters a bit
Yeah,
dirtier. Like, Amos is
same,
grey,
same.
Avasarala is
Hmm.
very complicated. Miller's got a lot of baggage.
Oh, Miller is. Yeah, well, that's because I've kind of talked some shit about Miller because I think it's quite creepy how obsessed he gets with this very, very young girl when he's like a 50 something divorced detective guy. And when I say that, people are always like, "Oh," and I was like, "No, no, 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 no. Love it. It's great that it's a part of his character because him being creepy is, it's just another complicated facet to this man that
Yes.
he doesn't have to be perfect, right? And like that's
No,
yeah.
no. And there's one character in the books which doesn't get as much, but in the TV show they've given her a lot more to do, and that's Drummer. And she's amazing
Ooh.
in the TV show. The actress they've got, Cara G. You see her without her makeup talking normally, and then you see her as Drummer. I didn't think it was the same woman to begin with. She's
Oh,
so good an actress, and she's so different that it's fascinating to watch.
interesting. Yeah, because drummer doesn't have
No,
all that. I mean, she's got some
yeah.
in the books, but I
Hmm.
mean I like her from what I've seen of her in the books, or I find her a fascinating character.
She's better in the
Um,
TV shows in that there's more to do. She's got more to do, and she's
yeah, they just gave her a little
really.
kind of like what they did well until back when Game of Thrones was good.
Hmm.
Kind of what they did with Littlefinger, right? Where he was like not really on page that much in the
Yeah,
books,
yeah.
but
And then they give him a bunch more to do, and you're like, oh, okay, now he seems quite interesting, and yeah.
right? Like, all right, you got something going on here.
Yeah, yeah. I'm constantly jealous of TV in some ways because they can do a bunch of stuff that we just can't do in the same way. Like they can have a flashback for 2 minutes that gives you a bit of stuff, and then you come back to the present. The only person I've seen who's done it is probably Liza Locklamora, but he does it in that it's a full chapter that then feeds into the present. But in TV, they can do 2 minutes, and like I can't do 3 pages and then come back to the present. Like you can't structure a book like that. It just doesn't. It would be
Yeah.
a mess, and everyone was like, "What the fuck's all this time jumping?" I'm like, it's difficult."
Right. Well, that's I was outlining a battle scene the other day
Hmm.
for one of my current projects, and I was like, God, I wish I could do this like a movie where jump cut, jump cut, jump cut, jump cut, but you can't.
My one of my dreams is to work in a writer's room on a TV show because the idea of having that collaborative space in the moment with a bunch of people on the same project, that would be mental. That would be so much fun. Uh,
That would
I
be
I'd love to do
assuming it
that.
was like a group that you vibed with. Like I do think
Yeah,
about that a lot, where it's like, what if, you know what I mean? When you're in the writer's room, I would imagine they have to vibe together
you
for
gotta
the
have
shows that
some
do well.
gelling. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because
To
otherwise it
work.
would not work. But it would be miserable if you didn't vibe.
I keep thinking I want to do that with a writing project, have a shared world and do a bunch
Like
of
a
books.
partner written. I've thought about that too, where I'm trying to trying to. I've floated the idea like once. I'm not really trying that hard. But maybe I should try harder to get Jenny Duas, JS Duas to work on my space opera with me.
Have co-written a book before, and that worked. That did work. We still need to go back and revise it and stuff, but that was finding the right person. I think that was definitely, like you said, if you don't vibe with them, it isn't going to work. It's not
Yeah.
gonna. It's not gonna.
Well, going back to The Expanse, James S. A. Corey, that's two
Clay Frank
co-writers.
and Dan
Yeah.
Abraham. So
Mm-hmm. Which,
mm,
yeah, after reading book one, I was like, oh, I wonder if, one of them wrote Miller and one of them wrote Holden,
Oldham.
and it'll just go that way, da 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 da. And then book three comes in and there's like five POVs, and I was like, well, never mind. That's
Yeah,
probably not it.
yeah. It's an interesting way to think how they did it and who planned what, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's different to
Anyway,
TV, but yes, very jazz of TV. But anyway. So you might be coming to Worldcon maybe this year, maybe.
I'm hoping to. I'm doing math
Okay.
because, I live in Detroit, which is quite far from Glasgow.
Hmm.
Uh,
Quite
and
a way.
flights are expensive. But like I have which anyone that is familiar with Worldcon and stuff knows that the ticket to the actual like thing and getting the membership and whatever, that's not that expensive. Like I'm a member. So I have that lined up.
Mm.
So assuming I can get everything else, all my other little ducks in a row,
Hmm.
I will hopefully be there, but let's see.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Well, that's August. Yeah, August this year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a big one. There's a lot of people gathering for that. A
I
lot
feel
of big
like
names.
everyone that I've asked, are you going to Worldcon? And like, I mean, not everyone, but like most of the people I've asked, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Worldcon this year.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, it's like big. It's gonna be a big old crew.
Yeah, I think at this point, conservatively, there are 120 people going that I know at this point. So like every 5 seconds, I'm be stopping to talk to someone.
Yeah, you'll get nothing.
Like a
You won't be
five
able to
minute
get
walk takes
anywhere.
2 hours to
Yeah.
get
I
somewhere.
was
Like,
gonna
where have you
say,
been? I was
book
just talking
yourself
to
like
people,
6 times.
just
You had
talking
the
to
amount of
everyone all
time.
the time. Yeah.
I ran into 47 people I know on my way back from the bathroom.
But a bunch of them I've never met in real life. I've just talked to them online or on social media, and to see them in person, that's going to be so much fun. Um,
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons I really want to go because it's like, yeah, I mean, like I applied to do panels and whatever. I haven't heard back. I don't know if I would get that, but even so, it's like
Same,
I
yeah,
just want to meet the people that I talk to online all the time, or have talked to on SFF Addicts on the show,
yeah.
and haven't gotten the pleasure to actually meet
Me
in
and
the
Chris,
real world yet.
same, yeah. Me and Chris Matar are going to sit in the corner and just drink dark beers, and that's about our plan for the basis of it. So
It
we're looking
sounds
forward to doing that.
delightful. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. She likes dark beer, so do I. So we'll try some local ones, and yeah, that's the plan. That's the
I would imagine there's going to be a good selection of that up in that area.
plan. There's going to be a lot of drinking.
Maybe
I can
some
imagine.
maybe some whiskeys.
There's going to be a lot of everything in Scotland. So to be honest, it's not going to be short whiskey in Scotland, that's for sure. All the breweries out there, and distilleries. So anyway, we stray. But
We
thank
try.
you, straight again. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for telling about your story. And good luck with the new projects. Look forward to seeing what comes out, and which of the five goes forward.
Yeah. Maybe all five. Yes.
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows?
Right.
I
Thank you for
will.
having me on though. This was
You're
so
welcome.
fun.
You're welcome. I'll leave links down below for everybody can find you on socials and stuff. And for SFF Addicts podcast that you co-host with Adrian Gibson, who I already spoken to, and go back and watch his interview. There'll be a link down below as well. Go and watch that. Okay. All right, everybody. Good night.